Guinea pigs are delicious.
But they're pets.
Not in Peru, they're not. They're a delicacy. They were worshipped by the Moche people in Peru about 2,000 years ago, and there's even a painting of the Last Supper in Cusco where Christ and the disciples are eating guinea pig.
But what do they taste like?
I know it's a cliche, but they genuinely do taste like chicken. They're really good. I do recommend.
Honestly, Jack, I'm not sure it's for me. I mean, my old guinea pig snuggling humbugs would never forgive me.
And that's the type of cultural revelation we'll be exploring in this new podcast. I'm Jack.
And I'm Clemmie, and this is Culture Shock.
In this episode, we talk about Colombia with our first guest, Marvin from Medellin.
So today, this is a bit of a more personal podcast episode for me. Jack and I are joined today by Marvin, who is my friend from Colombia, who I met on my gap year. I spent 6 months there. Something that I really remember being quite shocked by. I remember I got on the Transmilenio, which is a bus, and I was standing up, and obviously everyone wants to grab a seat as soon as they can, as soon as someone gets off it. And then what I saw was, so this person got off and someone jumped onto where the seat was. But instead of just plonking themselves down on the seat and sort of marking their territory, I think they hovered for like 10, 15 seconds and then sat down. Then after that, I kept on noticing it and just everyone seemed to be doing it. So can you explain why that's a thing?
I think it's more about just an awful feeling, which is when I mean, I find it awful. I think everyone here does it. We have that in common, that if somebody has been sit for half an hour or so, and then they just stand up and you sit right after, you can feel on your bum like all that warm sensation, and that's awful. So basically what people does is they let like air up a little bit just to be more fresh. Is you know what it is like? It's like when you are in the middle of the night, you have your pillow and then you turn over, like just that fresh sensation.
So
How can you compare it? So that's basically it, where we just like
that's such a good comparison.
Is it just for temperature or is it for hygiene reasons as well? Because obviously, particularly in the times of coronavirus, hygiene and sort of keeping everyone's distance is even more important than ever. So is it for hygiene reasons as well as just not liking a hot seat? Because that is the worst thing ever.
Yeah, but I don't think it is hygiene. It's more about the sensation that it's comfort, because Colombian culture, we do a lot of like not really hygiene things.
I remember actually when I was in Peru, obviously I don't want to conflate Colombia and Peru, they're very, very different places, but they do something similar to this while I was in Peru. And on the buses, the buses would drive along the motorway and then the doors about 500 meters away from the next stop would just fling open. So you're traveling at like 50, 60 miles an hour down the motorway, doors wide open, and genuinely if you're near the door you almost get sucked out because the pressure, it almost sort of pulls you out. So I don't know whether there's any more safety standards in Colombia, but I almost died.
No. That's something that, I mean, is not very common here in Medellin, because I think the public transport in Medellin is so good. But in my hometown, which is a small city, it's more like that kind of vibe about the buses. They are like all the time with the doors open. And sometimes it's so full that you have to literally hang in the door, and you literally are like feeling all the air. Like it's a great experience. I love it. I'm very adventurous, but I remember doing it, like being there, and it's just like, oh, this is a fair war. You can feel.
It's like bus surfing.
Yeah, it's bus surfing. That's exactly the description of it. It could be maybe in a sport, and yeah.
Shall I bring up big butt ants?
We like big butts and we cannot lie. Bring them up.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So one thing that I just loved when I remember walking through La Candelaria in Bogota, which is like this old historic town. There's always this man with a huge sign and it literally said big butt ants. And I was like, that must be a mistranslation. Like, what the hell is this? And then literally he was there selling ants with big butts that he'd fried. And apparently this is like a Colombian delicacy.
It comes actually from the region where I am, which is Santanderes. It's also, of course, indigenous tradition. From the raining season, there is, that is gonna come, like it's coming some bit bad, ants. They are flying away from the raining season. You can see them, and they deep fry it, and apparently they're good.
Colombians and their big butts, that's just a thing, isn't it? Everyone's got great bums in Colombia.
Yeah, exactly.
Questionable whether it's natural, but I regret actually never eating them. But apparently
Eating ants. Sorry, eating ants or eating bums. Sorry, that was followed on from the wrong bit there. Like, you're talking about how big bums are, and you regret not eating them. I was like, oh, okay, Clemmie, on your
I'll
own
let
time.
you decide which one I meant.
You can lie how much you want.
I didn't experience Colombia enough.
Did you know? Radio and public television in Colombia must play the national anthem every day at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Otherwise, they're breaking the law. Radio stations use the shorter version of the anthem, which is also used at international events such as the Olympics or the World Cup. Let's move on now to another it's a milestone in someone's life in Colombia, the quinceañera celebration. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it is like it's a bit like a rite of passage. It's like a sweet 16 almost.
Yeah,
when people turn 15, when girls turn 15 in Colombia. Do you know maybe the reasons behind it, how important it is to Colombian society? Can you just give us an overview?
Basically, is the step from becoming a woman, which I think is really early age, but it's very memorable. And for example, if you are like parents of the girl, when she's 12, 13, people start asking you, oh, you're already saving for the 15 años. And so imagine like 2 or 3 years just thinking about, and they imagine this idealization of the dress. So it's a big moment, it's very like memorable. And I think the top of the night, there is this tradition in which I think could be the dad or the mom, where they're gonna switch the girl, she's wearing sandals, and then they're gonna switch into, how do you say, high heel. So it's like this representation of like, now you're a woman. It started also from before the colonization. It was a tradition between indigenous or like native people here in America. So when the Spanish colonizers, they arrived, they wanted to make everyone Catholic. So they kind of mix the traditions.
It's such an interesting idea that for them, a girl wearing high heels represents her going into womanhood.
Yeah, exactly. In the last years, probably because I don't have any more like friends 16 years old. Yeah, that would be weird. But yeah, I haven't seen so many like that kind of parties anymore.
Is there a sense of rivalry when you go to one of these parties? So if you go to one and think, oh, mine's not as good as her one, or you think, oh, well, this is a bit rubbish, isn't it? Is there a sort of a social standing that comes from how good or how expensive or how glitzy your quinceañera is?
Definitely it is. Like, especially when you are on that age and like all your group of friends, like if there is 1 year with like mostly of your friends are gonna have their parties. Also, one of the important moment of the night, usually after they switch for high heels and everything, they prepare like a dance with their friends. So imagine they have like a 1 month of preparation, like once a week or twice a week. So that is a myth that all Colombians or Latinos, they know how to dance. It's because since we're kids, you are pushed to know how to dance. That's how we learn. It's basically, how do you call it? Natural selection.
Did you know that it's illegal to drink or sell alcohol in Colombia during major events and elections? So while we enjoy a nice cold beer during the World Cup, Colombians have to settle for an apple juice or a lime and soda.
So let's flip this onto you now. Let's think if there are any weird things that you've noticed about the UK. You know, you've spent some time living here. You've got to work out what makes us tick. Is there anything that you think, you know, I really don't get that?
A particular thing, like I have to say this, like how do you get the water taps?
Water taps.
Usually there's just one tap, and you can choose if it's hot and cold. So you mix it and you find the perfect temperature that you want, right? But in some houses, like especially old houses, I saw that there is like one for hot water and one for cold. One is freezing, the other one is boiling. So how does it work?
You quickly pass your hand in between the two.
Yeah, you've got to switch your hands around. That's what it is.
I don't even know why we have that. I kind of thought it was a European thing, but maybe not.
No, it's down to, I think, the Victorian times is when they were doing all the plumbing originally. The cold water was kept in one place that was all very safe to drink, but then the hot water was kept in these cisterns that were not always clean enough. So the hot water was often quite contaminated, and because of the way that valves worked, if it was all part of the same tap, the cold water that was drinkable would mix in with the non-drinkable water, and then you couldn't drink any of it, basically. So I think it dates from the time that all of our plumbing in the UK was being developed.
Jack, you're like a walking encyclopedia.
Watch out, Stephen Fry. Thank you so much, Marvin, for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you for the invitation. I really enjoyed this time, and yeah, I wish you the best of luck. I invite you everyone to travel to Colombia. It's a wonderful country. I know that everyone will fall in love.
Yeah, well, massive thank you again. And
gracias.
As I say, gracias y hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Well, I don't know about you, Clemmie, but all that's made me want to go to Colombia.
God, yeah, I can't wait to go back and finally try those big butt ants. If you've enjoyed this episode, follow us at cultureshock_21 on Instagram and Twitter.
And feel free to email your fun international stories to us at cultureshock_21@yahoo.com, and you might hear them in a future episode. Join us next time as we travel to Hungary with our guest, Edith.
And then the boys came and on the street poured like buckets of ice cold water on the girls.
We're looking forward to it.
Hasta luego!